大家好 ，Everybody well？ Good。咁我哋繼續睇下《法華經》嗰7個譬喻係講乜嘢。So we are continuing to look at the 7 parables. OK。如果你哋想買請嗰本《法華經》嘅咧，我自己覺得咧就係呢本係Jean Reeves 譯得係比較理想啲啦。咁你有個中文本嘅，你可以上呢個 link 去 download 個中文本，咁你翻屋企咪可以讀咯。book.bfnn.org/book/0875.hotmail。OK。咁我哋睇法華七語，咁雖然我哋係用咗3日嘅時間講咗一個譬喻。Even though we have spent the last 3 days exploring the first parable, but it's really worth it。實在係好值得嘅，因為變咗我哋係比較深入啲了解嗰個譬喻唔會話好顯淺咁水過鴨背咁啦。咁I think it's very worthwhile to spend that 3 hours in exploring the truth, the teachings in this first parable, the burning house. Because it's very worthwhile to understand a deeper what this whole parable is about and how we can actually apply it to our daily lives. 咁我都講過啦，法華經係一本經中之王。I have said that Lotus Sutra is the champion sutra of all sutras。點解呢？因為佢係一個成佛嘅方法，佢不單止係成佛嘅方法，而係一個快速成佛嘅方法。This is the path to Buddhahood. It's not just the path to Buddhahood. It's actually an expedient means to Buddhahood. So it's a fast lane. Okay, it's a carpool fast track lane. So that's why it's very worthwhile really to actually put your energy into understanding more about the Lotus Sutra and see if you can actually be more inspired and how it actually strengthen your practice and support you on the path。咁因為佢係一個成佛嘅捷徑、快速嘅方法，即係好似我哋行快線咁樣啦，揸車行快線咁。咁所以係好值得我哋花多啲時間去深入去了解法華經入邊嗰個意義。因為你每一部咁大部嘅經，6萬幾字嘅經，都唔可能你讀10次8次你會明得晒嘅。咁所以你要讀多啲嘅時候呢，就希望每一次讀呢，你自己就深入了解多少少，咁你就可以多少少方法去幫自己。呢個就係我哋喺修行上邊要做嘅嘢，就係每一次睇到經本入邊明白多少少呢個法理嘅時候，能夠將呢個法理可以消化到，以後就喺日常生活中去做，呢個就係學佛啦。有冇生活中度改變，呢個就係修行啦。So a 60,000 more than 60,000 words sutra. Don't expect you to understand it thoroughly within after you have read it 10 times or even 20 times. I have told you I have reading this sutra on and off for the last 28 years and still I hardly understand it. So it's actually it's very worthwhile to spend the rest of your life, the energy, the rest of your life to really try to explore this sutra a little bit more every day and understand it a little bit more every day and see if you can digest what you have done and or you have read and also be inspired for whatever little verses or little passages that you read through this Lotus Sutra and how you can actually contemplate and reflect on it and use that knowledge, the result of the contemplation or reflection to change how you look at life, to change how you deal with people, to change how your attitude to act out in any situation. That's the whole thing about practice. That's the whole thing about walking on the path. All right? So tonight we are going to the 7個譬喻大家都知道，火宅喻、窮子喻、藥草喻 the parable of the plants, the 花城喻 parable of the fantasy castle city. 依居喻 parable of the assurance for the 500 disciples. 計居喻 the parable of the safe and easy practices. 依止喻 the lifetime of the Tathagata. 即係啱啱，實在我哋嚟到呢度，我哋已經實在將所有呢個譬喻品呢個7個譬喻已經讀晒㗎啦。我哋跟住落嗰個已經係下半橛㗎啦。所以點解《法華經》嗰個精髓呢？嗰個真係所有嘅精髓呢，差唔多凝聚晒喺前一半嗰度，你就睇到啦。呢個7個譬喻全部喺前邊啦。我《法華經》總共有幾多品啊？28品啊！咁所以你諗下，呢個已經去咗16品啦，係咪啊？即係去咗7品啦。我哋已經讀到第16品啦，讀完16品，所以你睇到佢7個譬喻都喺晒前面嘅16品入邊。我哋睇到《法華經》嘅前句係幾咁重要。You look at this. We have just read the chapter 16, right? Look at this. All the 7 parables are in the front part of this whole sutra, and you can see why all these past teachers actually said that the four part of the Lotus Sutra, that means the front part of the Lotus Sutra, almost the front half, is actually the core essence of the whole Lotus Sutra. Okay, so you can see it from here. The 7 parables are very important concepts, important teachings of the Lotus Sutra, and you see it lies all in the first half of the Lotus Sutra. And Lotus Sutra has only got 28 chapters, and these 7 parables all lies within the 16 chapters. You can see how important the first half of the Lotus Sutra is. Okay, so 咁我哋今晚咧就講《法華經》嘅第4品信解品，即係窮子喻Faith and Understanding. So this is the 4th chapter, Faith and Understanding. 咁佢個譬喻入邊嘅譬喻就係窮子喻。So the parable inside this chapter is the parable of the poor son. 我唔希求你哋喺第一日讀嘅經呢個應該第一日讀㗎。第一日讀嘅經，我唔希求你哋會記得晒所有嘅詳細嘅長文，但係我都希望，我都相信你哋都唔多唔少記得多少關於窮子喻啊。So I didn't expect you to remember the details in this parable, in this sutra which we have read on day 1. But I expect, and I indeed expect that you will remember a little bit about this parable, the parable of the poor son. Okay, so let me see some hands. 我俾你舉下手問我，話俾我聽，你哋記得喺窮子喻入邊你最記得嘅。Let me see some hands telling me what did you remember from this chapter. Oh, okay. 搞錯咗啦，呢個唔係。係。係。係。攞返嚟。係。係。Yeah. Good. Yeah. Good. So Alice remember first part of the story. the son fled home, and then came back to sort of try to find a very low job at the place where his father became very wealthy. And saw the father was like a king, and he said, "Oh no, I'm not going to stay here." So he left, and the father recognized that was his son, and wanted to bring him back, but the son was so scared, and he actually what? He fainted. Remember? Okay. So who is going to tell me the second parts? Anything that you remember? 邊個仲記得呢個？你唔知我今日考試啊 ？You don't know that I'm going to test you today 今日呢個信解品下半橛嘅窮之語啊，路上講咗一橛，下半橛係乜嘢？有邊個記得啊 ？You remember, Laurie?
The father sent some people to retrieve him and
Yes.
gave him a job shoveling dung.
Yeah.
And he kept the son close outside
Yes.
of the compound of the cows or the
Yeah.
house where he lived.
Yeah.
And gradually over time gained his trust and assurance and made him
Yeah.
more part of his household.
Yes.
And in the end, he revealed to everybody that this truly is my son.
Very good. Good. 啊，佢講咗下半橛啦嚇，就係嗰兩個人咧去捉咗個仔，即係佢請咗個仔翻嚟做工啦嚇，做工啊就係做乜嘢？除糞啊，最重要你記住呢樣嘢，除糞。除糞咁啊，個仔一路留喺度除糞，但係都住喺爸爸嘅大屋外邊嘅，係咪？一路咁啊，經過好多年啦，好多年啦。咁啊之後咧就呢個仔成熟啦，成長啦。咁個爸爸咧就點啊？就臨死前啊，就將佢表白，呢個係我仔啊，咁就交晒財富俾佢。啊，呢個係呢個故事啊，好簡約嘅一個故事嗬。咁實在入邊一個好深嘅意義嗬。可能我哋都要3日講呢個故。I think we probably need even though it's a very simple story, but there is a lot of deep meaning in this parable. So probably we will spend another next 3 days in exploring this parable. Okay, good. All right. So let us look at 我哋睇睇呢個實在佢個經文一開始咧。佢講咗一個當機眾，個當機眾咧就係呢4個人啦，喺第4品啊，信解品啊。信解品一開始咧，佢就講呢樣嘢啦，佢就講咗當機眾係邊個 ？The audience。佢以時為命須菩提摩訶迦旃延摩訶迦葉摩訶目犍連啊！從佛所聞未曾有法，咁啊世尊受舍利弗，咁一路咧就講舍利弗咧點樣俾佛咧佢點呀？佢受記啦。咁啊好啦，咁你睇到啦，呢個一開始嗰個咧講嗰個須菩提。佢講呢個當機眾呢品咧，實在係對邊個講嘅咧？上一品啊，上一品係譬喻品啊，第二品咧，方便品啦。方便品第2咧就係同邊個講咧？就係同舍利弗講嘅。佛陀受記舍利弗將來成佛嘅。舍利弗係上根上器嘅人，所以咧第2品個第2品方便品咧就對舍利弗講。第3品同第4品咧就同呢4個中根嘅聲聞講，即係話點啊？中間嘛，佢一定係唔夠舍利弗咁醒目啦嚇。咁呢4個啊，咁呢個就係四個中根嘅聲聞。So the second chapter, which is the chapter of skillful means, is directed specially for who? Sariputra. Especially for Sariputra, Buddha actually endorsed Sariputra to become a future Buddha in future times. And Sariputra is of excellent, you can call excellent roots. He has excellent roots to receive Dharma. So he excelled everybody. He surpassed everybody. So the second chapter of Lotus Sutra is aimed from the Buddha to Sariputra. But chapter 3 and chapter 4 are aimed for these middle class, those people with medium capacities. These are the Sravakas. Okay, the 4 of them. So in here it says these are the 4, the Sui菩提, Subhuti, 第一個，第二個就迦旃耶 Mahakaccayana, the second one. 第三個就係摩訶迦葉 Mahakassapa. 第四個就係目犍連 Mahamukkunlana. 就係呢4個呢，就係呢兩品嘅當機眾。咩叫當機眾呢？即係話佢係主角。佛陀講呢兩個故事係專門為佢哋嘅，專門為佢哋。What do you mean by audience? I cannot find a better word to actually represent the Chinese. The best word I can find is audience. The audience is the main cast. The main cast for chapter 3 and chapter 4. The main cast that the Buddha is actually aiming at these 4 people. Teach these 4 people. But chapter 4 is different than the other parables. Why is it different? No, not chapter 4. Yeah, it is chapter 4. No, it's not chapter 4. I read too much lately. I'm just all confused. Okay, so in this chapter is mainly directed to actually teach these 4 people. All right. So we want to look at this, the first passage. 我哋要睇睇呢一段嗬。佢話：你嘅中文版同我都唔一樣嚇。我喺我自己個本就第110頁啊，順解品一開始第二頁啊。佢話：從佛所聞未曾有法，世尊受舍利弗、阿耨多羅三藐三菩提記，發希有心，歡喜踴躍。咩叫歡喜？咩叫踴躍呢？歡喜係心入邊嘅，踴躍係點啊？action 手舞足蹈嘅嗬。200分言我等居僧之手，連並扭賣，是為已得涅槃，無所堪任啊！不復進求阿耨多羅三藐三菩提。世尊往昔說法既久，我時在座，身體皮骸，但念空無相無作，於菩薩法遊戲神通，正佛國土成就眾生，心不喜樂。我哋睇埋個英文先嚇。So that the passage at that time, the assurance of Sariputra, future supreme awakening, were astonished and ecstatic with joy. Astonished, that means the mind is happy, right? Right? No? No? Surprise. Oh, then this is not the right word. 喺中文係點讀啊？喺中文係歡喜踴躍啊。Actually, ecstatic with joy maybe. But in the Chinese, it's ecstatic with joy and not it's not astonished, but enthusiastic, 踴躍 enthusiastic, but that's the mind also, right? But 踴躍 has in physical actions, like wow, 好開心啊，like jumping here and there. So the mind and the physical are filled with joy. So in the Chinese is mind and physical are filled with joy. 歡喜係心啊，踴躍係手舞足蹈啊，係咪啊？我哋中文就係咁啊，嗬啊。So the English is a little bit different. So good thing that you have bilingual teacher. Hey, so astonished and ecstatic with joy. Let it be. Okay. So, and then he said, we leading monks, old and worn out, believed that we had already attained Nibbana. 你睇下佢就話，歡喜踴躍啊，以為自己已得涅槃，無心堪任啊！我哋唔使再點啊，不復進求啊，即係唔使點啊，唔使再求進步啦。So he said, we had already attained Nibbana, and we could not go on further, and we could go no further. That means these four people said, oh, I have attained the Nibbanic for Sravaka, the lower Nibbana. I don't need to go further, and I can go no further. Because they did not know the one vehicle. 因為佢哋唔知有大乘啊嘛，唔知有一乘法啊嘛，係咪？好啦 ，Then he said, so we did not seek supreme awakening. 所以我點啊？不復進求阿耨多羅三藐三菩提。我即係唔再去點啊？唔再去爭取成佛啦。所以點解人哋話咧，小乘法咧就係一個自了漢就係咁解啦。That's why a lot of people said the lesser vehicles are somebody is only doing it for their self-liberation. The lesser vehicles. It's not for service. Okay? That's the reason why. 咁咧，然後話 The world-honored one has been preaching the Dharma for a long time, and all the while we have been sitting in our places, weary in body, and mindful only of emptiness, formlessness, and non-action. Neither the enjoyments nor the divine powers of the Bodhisattva Dharma, purifying Buddha lands and saving living beings, appeal to us. You can see this is what the lesser vehicles' mindset are. They think they have reached that state and they cannot go further, and they are not willing to go further. But the Buddha has been teaching that Dhamma for a long, long time. And they just sit there and just being mindful that they're weary body, and then there's formlessness and emptiness, and that's all. And they don't do anything. They don't go further because they are not aware. They don't know that they can go further. And they don't rejoice in the enjoyment and the divine powers of the Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva has very strong divine powers. And of course, every Bodhisattva, they were born in, they could be born into a pure land. And they have no urge to attain that state. And most of all, they do not have that volition to save living beings. That doesn't appeal to them. Like, don't you think this is such a wonderful ceremony? 你唔覺得呢個係一個好好嘅經會咩？係咪啊？但係點解咁少人嚟啊？ Why doesn't it appeal to people? Why we only have this fewer people to come? 點解啊？ Why? 好似佢哋咁啫嘛。Exactly the same. Those who don't come, if they know about this and they don't come, it's just like these people. 當然佢哋冇咁高境界啦。當然佢哋 of course they haven't got this to become Sravaka, but they don't think it's necessary that they come. They don't think this appeals to them. 佢話我時在座，身體疲懈，但念空無相無作。佢淨係喺自己嗰個點啊？喺個聲聞個境界入邊。於菩薩法遊戲神通啊！佢話於菩薩啊嗰種神通法唔關佢事，我唔嚮往啊！佢正佛國土啊，佛嘅國土啊仲更加唔嚮往。成就眾生即係去服務別人啊， 心不起拗啊，即係話點啊？我唔嚮往，我唔願意做。This is a Sravaka. Okay. When Sariputra actually heard what the Buddhas talk about this one Buddha vehicle, he was so ecstatic. He was so filled with extreme joy and fulfillment. But these people don't. 當舍利弗啊，佛陀同佢受記講得一乘法嘅時候，佢歡喜到不得了。佢就話：哎呀，原來我哋啲咁嘅老僧啊，我哋唔好以為老僧一定好威水啊！我哋啲老僧啊，成日就係咁啊，不服進求啊！So those elder monks, they don't seek supreme awakening. 好啦，然後跟住咧，呢班老僧咧就講啦。Then these old monks said, "Oh, unexpectedly and suddenly we have now heard this rare Dharma. We see ourselves as extremely fortunate. Without even seeking it, we have acquired something great and good, an extremely rare treasure." 佢話：我哋啊，心自慶幸獲大善利啊！佢話：忽然得聞啊，稀有之法，心自慶幸獲大善利，無量珍寶不求自得。喺呢度咧，呢個重點咧，就係佛陀同呢個四個聲聞講。四個聲聞講呢個譬喻咧，就係希望佢哋咧聽到佛陀講呢個一佛成之後咧點啊？佢哋就覺得哇，原來真係呢個係珍寶嚟㗎，無量珍寶，不求自得。原來我哋唔使求啊，我哋喺呢個因緣際會就聽到啦。佢哋開心到不得了，所以慶幸啊，覺得自己好幸福啦，好高興，好覺得自己好幸福。So these old monks, after they heard the Buddha talk about the one Buddha vehicle, they said, "Wow, how fortunate we are! How fortunate we are, being old and weary and always indulge in that formlessness, in that non-action, in the emptiness. Now we see this rare Dharma. Wow, without even seeking it, we got this here right now. How fortunate we are." That means they are very grateful. They appreciate so much. 咁係咪即係代表佢呢四個聲聞好感恩啊？好多謝啊？係咪啊？咁當佢哋聽完之後咧，聽完之後佢話啊，真係好啦。佢講乜嘢？佢話世尊啊，我等今者樂說譬喻以明思義。佢聽完之後咧，呢啲老僧啊老僧話：世尊啊，佛陀啊，我哋呢班咧聽完啦，我想講翻一個故事俾你聽，我想講翻一個譬喻俾你聽，你睇下我哋係咪真係明白你嘅意思？你明白你教學嘅意思啊？So after this, they have received the teaching, and they thought that they were so fortunate, and all of them they said, "Buddha, now let us give you a parable. Let us make up a story for you, so that you can check on us whether we understand it properly." So this parable is not taught by the Buddha. 所以呢個譬喻唔係佛陀講㗎。係啲老僧話俾佛陀聽，係啲老僧自己講出嚟，同佛陀講，希望佛陀印證佢哋做得啱唔啱。So this parable is told by these old monks, these 4 Sravaka monks, so that the Buddha can check out whether they actually understood what the Buddha taught about the one Buddha vehicle. Okay? 你仲喺度嗬？未瞓着覺係咪啊？ You're still here, not dozing off yet, right? Good. So this is very different from the other parables, which are actually told by the Buddha. 呢個係好唔同嘅一個譬喻，因為呢個譬喻唔係佛陀講嘅。好啦，咁所以呢個譬喻咧叫窮子喻。咁呢個窮子喻咧就係、實在喺個經典啊，喺經文入邊啊，或者喺嗰個釋文啊解釋呢個法華經嘅經文入邊咧，有啲咧就話係舍利弗講咗之後，然後咧就摩訶迦葉咧就講下邊啲偈頌。有啲咧就話可能係摩訶迦葉講，然後咧佢哋4個一齊咧就講呢啲偈頌。So in the commentaries, there are very different versions about who actually told this story. Some commentaries said it was Subhuti to tell the story, and then all of them together to tell the verses. And some commentaries said it was the Subhuti to tell the story, and then Mahakasapa to tell the verses. So it doesn't really matter， 實在冇乜重要嘅。究竟邊個講實在冇乜重要，最重要就係嗰個內容係乜嘢。So it really doesn't matter. What matters is the context of this parable. OK， 咁呢個窮子喻啦，我哋睇下窮子喻入邊個，佢係譬若有人年紀幼稚，捨父逃逝，往久住他國，或10、20至50歲。Suppose a still young man left his father for 10 years, 20 years, or even 50 years. 咁實在呢個呢，呢個究竟解釋乜嘢呢？呢個譬喻呢，一直以來呢，喺法華經面世之後，一直以來呢，大家都話呢個法華經呢係釋迦佛呢。喺佢嗰一生嘅一代教化，即係話呢個係最重要嘅佢嘅 teaching， 所以叫一代教化。咁呢，實在啊，亦都係暗示乜嘢呢？呢50啊，佛陀弘法幾多年啊？49啊，50年啊。所以啊，佢呢個實在係講呢，係佛陀嘅教化嗰個長短啊。就係40幾50年啦，有10至20至50，所以佢呢個解釋咧就係話係由呢個細路離家，直到呢個細路點啊？個爸爸俾個金銀財寶佢，爸爸要往生嘅時候就係40幾50年，就係佛陀嘅弘法嘅一生。你明嘛？呢度 OK。So, suppose a still young man left his father to the other places and lived in there 10 years, 20 years, 50 years. Why would you say it's 50 years? How many years did Buddha teach? "49 years." And so this is actually the time that the Buddha taught. You see, when the boy left, until the boy came back and stayed for the father for 40 years. Remember? 40 years. 20 years, the first 20 years, he was moving down. The next 20 years, he developed a very good relationship with his father, and his father trusted him, and he trusted his father. And then, before his father died, the father gave him all the treasures, which was the Dharma, the metaphor of Dharma. So when he left until he came back and stayed there, that was almost 50 years. So that's the time frame when the Buddha actually, for how long that the Buddha actually taught. OK? 好啦，第二個啦， 佢其父先來求子不得，終子一成，其家大富財寶無量，金銀琉璃珊瑚等等等等等等，乃遍他國，商賈假客亦甚眾多。咁佢個父親啦，嗰個仔走咗啦，咁個父親揾佢揾唔到咧，就喺一笪地方落咗腳啊嘛，係咪？落咗腳之後喺嗰度咧就做生意啦，就成為一個大富長者嚇。咁咧就喺好多財富啦，金銀琉璃珊瑚啊。咁咧仲有喎，佢不單止喺嗰度喎，乃遍他國都有好多財富喎，即係等於而家點啊？即係而家即係 overseas investment 咁啦嚇。咁咧然後咧，商賈假客亦甚眾多，即係好多好有顯赫地位嘅朋友。Meanwhile, the father has searched for his son unsuccessfully and now lived in another city. His household has become very wealthy, and also traveling traders around. There are a lot of traveling traders, and also his investment are actually there are a lot of overseas investment too. So in here it says, okay, there were very many merchants and traveling traders, clerks and attendants. His revenues in investment spread to other lands. That means overseas investment, right? For nowadays term. 咁實在呢度係解釋乜嘢呢？實在呢度係解釋乜嘢？喺呢個時刻啊，呢個爸爸有冇忘記咗個仔啊？冇啊，佢仲係一路掛住個仔，一路想揾住個仔。點解個爸爸想揾個仔啊？嚇？承繼佢個財富啊，係啊，承繼佢嘅財富啊。So 咁咧，實在佢呢段嘅意思係乜嘢咧？因為呢段係譬喻嚟噶嘛。佢譬喻乜嘢啊？希望佛法可以延續落去，希望有人能夠點啊？繼承佛陀嘅正法落去啊！亦都希望乜嘢啊？能夠揾到一個人可以誤解，唔係誤解，係誤解，即係明白佛陀嘅教法，即係好似等於佛陀喺靈山會上揸住支花，點啊？邊個笑啊？迦葉尊者未笑啦，係咪？呢個就係以心傳法，呢個就係誤解啦，即係明白啦。咁就係呢個，實在呢個爸爸係想俾呢個，想俾所有自己嘅財產俾呢個仔，就等於佛陀想俾佢個法。有人能夠承接咁解。Okay. So in here, meanwhile the father has searched for his son unsuccessfully and now lived in another city, and his household has become very wealthy and blah 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 blah. Do you think that the father has stopped looking for the son? Has forgotten about the son? No. Why would he still want to find the son? Why? Don't just smile at me. Tell me something. Why? For love? But he's so wealthy. What? In this passage? The wealth. Yeah. So what is the wealth metaphor? What is the wealth represents? The Dharma, yeah. You see, so wonderful. The father is the Buddha, yeah? And the father wanted an heir to his inheritance, right? Wanted the son to come back and inherit all his wealth, all his assets, right? Overseas and local. Just like the Buddha wanted a person to inherit his Dhamma, to understand his Dhamma, to penetrate through the truth, and be able to pass it on. That's the metaphor. Okay, so next one is 以時世尊容任輾轉啊，遇到附舍咁，佢就話啦去到見到世尊啊，以時窮子啊佢世尊啊嗰陣時咧呢個乞兒仔啦就喺嗰笪地方，去舊嗰笪地方揾唔到食啦，咁諗住去點啊？去揾笪地方去打啲粗工啦，係咪？去到呢笪地方啊，見到有一個人，遠遠見到一個人咧坐喺點啊？坐喺獅子床。獅子床即係等於我哋嗰陣時，我哋中國人嘅咩啊？酸枝大床啊！獅子床寶幾成竹，唔係寶幾嘅應該係咩？咁得意寶幾成竹，寶基啊應該係係啊，寶基成竹啊！呢舊字係咁啊！寶基成竹啊，即係隻腳咧晾喺嗰個鑲晒寶石嘅凳上邊。咁咧，哇！佢見到呢個咩人嚟㗎？呢個一定係好有錢嘅人啦！咁多人圍住佢，又剎利，又居士，又婆羅門，一路好恭敬咁圍住佢。咁咧，成身都掛住咩啊？珍珠瓔珞價值千萬喎！你嗰啲咩 Gucci 啊，咩乜東啊都唔及佢啊，價值千萬喎莊嚴其身，利民同僕，手執8忽，即係一路喺佢隔離潑線啊！侍立左右，服以寶蓋，即係上面有把好靚，我哋叫寶蓋啦有個好靚嘅遮住佢。哇！香水散地，散中名花，羅列寶物出來取悅。哇！你見到呢個人，你覺得哇，遠遠你都唔好行入去啦！我自己咁鬼窮，唔好行入去。即係等於以前啲中國啲大家咧，大家大戶咧，咪一層層樓閣嘅。你窮啲都唔敢行埋去啦。你話係咪啊？就係咁解啊！咁咧窮呢個仔咧就話：哇，唔好搞啦，我都係唔去啦，唔好入去啦。So we look at the English one. It's very long. I'm just telling you, don't read it, okay? So this poor son, he couldn't make ends meet. So he traveled. He wanted to travel to find a place where he can get some really low work, really rough work to make just to get some bread. So he reached this city where his father. He didn't know that was his father, where his father was residing, and he saw this man in a mansion. And his man was sitting in a throne, and then putting his feet on a chair and a stool, which was decorated with jewels, and so many people around him. And he has a big, beautiful jewelry umbrella on top of him, and people were fanning next to him, and all these higher ranked people. You know, in the old days in India, there are caste system, right? So, but there are Brahmins and the government officials were standing around him. So this son saw this. Wow, who's this man? This man must be some really king or chief. Let me run away. I'm not going to stay here. 佢就驚啦，驚就走啦。咁如果呢個老人家咧，呢個大富長者咧，遠遠就見到呢個人，你知啦，自己嘅仔啊。一定認得㗎，係咪啊？哇！呢個咪就我個仔咯，佢就即刻點啊？佢話：哎呀，即遣旁人急追將還，窮子歡喜特未曾有，不如往昔。佢話係啦，咁咧就即刻咧揾人咧去追佢啦。追佢嘅時候，個仔就話：你做咩追我？我又冇咩犯罪你追我做咩啊？你梗係想殺我咁啊！直砰砰咁暈咗落笪地嗰度。暈咗落笪地嗰度咧，咁啊點啊？個爸爸就話：哎呀，唔好勉強佢，唔好勉強，攞啲冷水潑醒佢，叫醒佢走，放佢走啦咁所以啊，呢個仔咧就話：哇！窮子歡喜得未曾有，即刻點啊？攞翻條命仔啦，係咪？即刻走都走唔切啦！從地而起要往次貧利，去啲更窮嘅地方點啊？希望再揾到份粗工。Okay, then this son. The father saw, even though the father in the distance, he saw and recognized his son. That is my son. Wow, my son is here. So he sent servants to go and grab his son back, to grab this poor boy back. And this poor boy was so scared and said, why? I haven't done anything bad. Why are you going to kill me? Are you going to kill me? So he fainted. And the father saw that and said, no. Oh, forget it. Sprinkle some water and let him become and take him away. Let him go. So this son, after they sprinkled some cold water on his face, he got up and said, wow, I still have my life. He picked up his shoes and then ran to another poor district and wanted to find a low job there to get some bread. 實在呢個譬喻啊 So what does this 呢個譬喻究竟暗示乜嘢呢 So what does this passage represent? Yeah. So what are those things? Beneficial. Okay, good. 阿哥咧就話，咪就好似我哋咁樣啦。我哋咧有時知道有啲嘢係對我哋好有利益嘅，但係我哋唔想做，唔想面對啊。咁我哋就點啊？視而不見，呢句地下就走，係咪啊 ？So 實在咧呢個咧，亦都係講乜嘢？亦都係講咧，佛陀咧係願意將佢個法全盤講出嚟嘅，但係啲人未夠成熟，所以佢咁講都冇人聽，係咪啊？你諗下，佛法喺加拿大幾多年啊？你聽過我講好多次㗎啦。哎呀！真係失敗，你都唔記得啊？100抵打啦，10幾又抵打，百幾係百幾未夠200年，185記唔記得1889年啊？1889年啊，百幾年咋？百幾未夠200年啊！嗬，佛法喺加拿大只有200年咋，即係俾夠佢，俾多佢啦。即係北美只有200年咋，你諗下幾亂呢？係咪？幾硬啊！嗬，所以咁少人都係唔出奇㗎，明白？咁少人真係唔出奇嘅，因為點解？根本未有咁嘅緣分啊，未有咁嘅福去聽法華經，係咪啊？未有咁嘅緣，未有咁嘅福去聽法華經，所以你睇下知道啦，根基未成熟嘅話。你接觸到你都唔會覺得嚮往啊，就等於呢個窮子一樣。Okay, so this passage tells us what? Kwok said, even though we know things that are beneficial to us, but we don't want to face it, we just want to avoid it because we don't want to work hard or whatever, you know. That's part of it. But this passage means the Buddha is willing to give his teachings completely, give it out completely, with no reservation. But people are not matured enough to receive. Okay? So it's just like us here in Canada. How old is Buddhism in Canada? You guys should know. How many years? 150, almost 150. 1889, right? 1889. So less than 200 years. You see? So that's why fewer people is not surprised. Because in order to hear such a sutra, one's seed inside has to be matured. And one needs to have that kind of merits in order to be able to have the opportunity to actually study and hear this kind of sutra. That maturity is necessary. The maturity in merits, the maturity in opportunities, the maturity in merits and opportunities. Yeah? So, I mean, all 5 of you are really, you have that merits, you have that opportunities, your seed is ready to receive that teaching. That's why you pursue. Right? 係咪啊？佢哋5個嗬，佢哋5位，點解佢日日又黐到出嚟？嚇，日日喎，你諗下，點解佢哋粒種子成熟，佢哋亦都有咁嘅福報，可以去聽呢個大乘經典。So it doesn't happen out of coincidence，唔係 coincidence 係咩啊？偶然嘅，唔係偶然嘅。OK。OK， 我哋睇埋呢句啦。So 佢話：爾時長者將欲誘引其子，而設方便，勿顯二人形色憔悴，無威德者，汝可詣彼，隨與窮子，此有作處，倍予語席。窮子若許將來試作，若言欲何所作，便可與之，故汝隨訓。我等二人亦共與作。時二使人即求窮子，既已得意，具陳上事。已是窮子先取其駕，尋與隨訓。So this is on page 14，唔係呢個喺114頁啊，中文版。咁呢就英文版 ，this is the English one. The skillful means. Then the rich man wanting to entice his son back, secretly sent two men of miserable and undignified appearance after him. And all the way, almost the whole page on page 143, okay? And then, and secretly sent two men of miserable and undignified appearance after him. And then, we are hiring him to remove dung and that you will work along with him. That is the order from the father. 好啦。我哋睇呢個啦，呢個長者知道啦，想點啊？欲引誘其子，而設方便。Okay, the old man wanting to entice his son back. What did he do? He used skillful means. Okay. What kind of skillful means? 乜嘢方便啊？勿顯二人形色憔悴，無威德者。呢兩個人呢，就係又冇精神啦，又冇又唔夠高大威猛啦，又冇德行啦。喺一啲經典入邊呢，佢就話呢，一個係聾嘅，一個係盲嘅，一個個樣好醜陋嘅。咁啊有一啲經典係完全冇提佢究竟呢兩個人個樣係點嘅。咁啊，總之呢兩個就冇乜威德嘅，又唔靚仔啦嚇，又唔莊嚴啦。咁咧就去同呢個仔講啦，我哋有份工啊，如果你肯做咧，我都有得做。我哋兩個一齊做，咁我哋不如3個一齊做好唔好啊？咁嗰個仔話做咩啊？去隨訓。嗱，你冇誤解呢個米田共呢個字咧，以為淨係解米田共，淨係講訓。實在喺印度咧，訓係代表垃圾，亦都係包括米田共，即係屎尿啊嗰啲都包括，但係亦都係包括垃圾、污糟嘢啊或者污水啊等等，叫訓。呢個訓字就係咁解，嗬。咁啊，所以同英文譯出嚟咧有少少唔同啊，嚇。咁呢兩個人咧就求呢個呢個仔啊就話，咁呢個仔話好啦，咁有咩價錢啊咁？咁話咁嘅價錢啊，幾好價錢㗎，譬如3蚊1個鐘啊咁啊，佢話好啦，咁我哋去做啦咁。So this son the rich man wanting to get his son back, sent two men of miserable and undignified appearance. In some of the commentary, these two men, one was blind, one was very ugly. But in other commentaries, they don't mention about how these men look, but they don't look very appealing. Okay. So they sent these two men. Actually, these two men already working for this father. Send these two men out, go to the poor and say, "Hey, we've got a job which is worth $3 an hour, and if you come and work, then we three can work together. Then I get a job too. Can you come and work?" So the son said, "Okay." So what are they paying? He said, "Well, they're paying such and such $3 an hour or $10 an hour." He said, "Okay, I will come." And what kind of job? So in this book it says removing dung. So what is dung in English means? Manures. But in the older days, it's not just manures. In the older days, this word in Indian terms, in Indian language terms, means garbage, and also include manure or pee or dirty water, rubbish. So that word dung is really so not inclusive. Okay, so this boy agreed to go and work there. Okay, so that's it for tonight. The dung, end with the dung. 我哋以訓嚟結束啦。咁如果你哋屋企有法華經咧，或者你上網睇法華經咧，你可以翻去讀翻窮子語啊，係啊，可以深刻一啲啊。If you have a Lotus Sutra at home, all of you have, go home and read this chapter 4 so that refresh your memory. So tomorrow when you hear, then it may be more interesting. 咁你聽晚聽嘅時候，你就會覺得仲更加有趣啦。OK， 好嘛？我哋聽晚再繼續啦。即係要講3晚啊，因為仲有22張幻燈片。咁你預咗聽3晚啦嚇。好，我哋回向，願以此功德普及於一切我等與眾生，皆共成佛道。我哋希望能夠有更多人聽聞佛法，走在正法道上，可以能夠讓自己變得更快樂、更安詳、更自在。May we wish more and more beings will encounter the words of the Buddha, study and practice them, and find ways to help themselves to become happier and more peaceful.